Governor Frank Keating led rescue workers and the grieving citizens of his state in a moment of silence. And all that could be heard was the Oklahoma wind. And then came the peal of church bells across the city, across the state, and across the country. Later in the day, stricken families held funeral services for their loved ones. Among the 8 different services today, the final rites for 5-year-old Aaron Coverdale and his 2-year-old brother Elijah. They were in the daycare center.
Some bright lights burn real bright and they burn out quickly, but if they do what God willed them to do, they've done their work. And so let them rest and let us heal and let us rebuild. God bless.
This evening, efforts continued at the site to retrieve more bodies, and they're still hoping for a miracle. And the investigation into the bombing continued today. In Kansas, federal prosecutors said at a court hearing that Timothy McVeigh told his friend Terry Nichols 3 days before the bombing that, quote, something big was going to happen. In Oklahoma City, a federal judge ordered Timothy McVeigh's court-appointed lawyers to stay on the case, despite their request to get off. He also denied a request to move the case out of Oklahoma. At Tinker Air Force Base near Oklahoma City, guards are on a heightened state of alert, ThreatCon Alpha. This is where suspect Timothy McVeigh is being held in a see-through glass cell so he can be watched. Today, federal sources told Dateline that McVeigh's father, William, and his sister, Jennifer, were headed here to try to get him to talk with investigators. But even with McVeigh's sister and father apparently urging him to cooperate, it could be a hard sell. If Timothy McVeigh is convicted of carrying out the bombing, prosecutors will likely seek the death penalty. It would seem he's got nothing to gain. And right now, sources say the only thing McVeigh is telling investigators is that he's a prisoner of war. Tinker Air Force Base is also where the federal grand jury is meeting to hear evidence against McVeigh. And today, a subpoena to appear in front of that grand jury was served upon this man.
Says you are hereby commanded to appear and testify before the grand jury of the United States.
He is Dan Kane, the editor of McVeigh's hometown newspaper in Lockport, New York. Prosecutors want him to testify so they can examine 2 letters McVeigh is said to have written to the newspaper in 1992, just after his discharge from the Army.
That may be the only clear insight into his thinking that we ever had. One of the FBI agents has told me that this is a significant development in the case because the man has remained extremely reticent. Like a stone, I believe, were the words that he used.
Today, the Union Sun and Journal reprinted those letters, the first of which seems particularly revealing. It's dated February 11th, 1992, and is a diatribe on the death of the American dream. McVeigh rails against crime, high taxes, and overpaid politicians. But the letter hints that McVeigh's anger runs deeper. Racism on the rise, he writes? You had better believe it. Is this America's frustrations venting themselves? Is it a valid frustration? Who is to blame for the mess? The accused bomber's letter continues. What is it going to take to open the eyes of our elected officials? America is in serious decline. And then, perhaps the strongest hint at what McVeigh thinks it might take. Is a civil war imminent? Do we have to shed blood to reform the current system? I hope it doesn't come to that, but it might. While Timothy McVeigh has apparently not seen his father in some time, federal authorities tonight are saying that he is very close with his sister Jennifer, and that if anyone can get him to shed some light on the bombing, she can. Stone?
Thanks, Chris. The death toll in Oklahoma City has been climbing all day, and here now is the latest count of those confirmed dead, those injured, and those missing. The tragedy has touched President Clinton in a personal way. Today, he attended the funeral of a man who was once one of his bodyguards, Secret Service agent Alan Witcher. And tonight, the president is proposing that 1,000 new federal law enforcement agents and prosecutors be hired to fight terrorism.